Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Indiana Farmers Coliseum in Indianapolis, Indiana. And Dynamite tonight, this was the go-home show for AEW Dynasty, which is this Sunday, which Dynasty is shaped up to be a good show. It has a good card, in my opinion. But Dynamite tonight, I thought it was just a very mid show, in my opinion. I'd say it was a lot better than last week's show, which I didn't review, but I did watch it. And I thought last week's Dynamite was one of the worst Dynamites I have seen. They did not need to air that Jack Perry CM Punk situation at All In. We did not need to see it. But Tony Khan was like, oh, well, it makes sense to air the footage. And I'm like, no, it doesn't even make any sense. Why air the footage when you have a guy who is no longer with the company in CM Punk? Why air it? There was no point in airing that footage. All it was just to get more heat in AEW on CM Punk. Now that he's no longer with the company. And he's in WWE now. That's all it was. Footage did not need to be aired. Absolutely awful to even air that footage. Like I said, Tony Khan going on to say, oh, well, it makes sense to air it. No, it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But like I said, last week's show, one of the worst Dynamites I have seen, but at least this week's show, it was much better than last week's, but still very mid, in my opinion. But tonight on Dynamite, we had Brody King and Julia Hart versus Adam Copeland and Will Nightingale. We had the Elite, the Young Bucks, and Kazuchika Okada. They end up taking on Pac, Penta El Zero Miedo, and Danny Garcia, dancing Danny Garcia. We had Deonna Purrazzo in action, and she ended up taking on Mariah May. Orange Cassidy was in action, and he ended up taking on Shane Taylor, which we already seen them go at it this past Saturday on Collision. And the main event, we had Will Ospreay versus Claudio Castagnoli. But overall, Dynamite tonight, very mid-show it was. And it didn't even feel like a go-home show. I completely forgot that Dynasty was this Sunday. That shows how much, they're hyping up Dynasty and getting us, excited to check out the show. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. Dynamite opened up tonight with Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley just recently won the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. So Moxley ended up making his way through the crowd. The crowd was, excited to see Moxley. So Moxley ended up making his way to ringside. And he ended up grabbing the mic, and Moxley got into the ring, and he ended up talking about one of the first titles he ever won being right there in Indianapolis. Moxley then ended up talking about swimming upstream ever since he started back then. So Moxley then delivered a message to anyone who said that he would never achieve great things. To which Moxley ended up saying, kiss my ass and watch me. Moxley then reminded everyone that the title on his shoulder is the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. He ended up saying a prestigious championship he has been chasing for 5 years. And he finally achieved that goal. He ended up saying thousands and thousands of miles traveled across the ocean, and so many people saying that him holding the title live on Dynamite was impossible. Moxley then ended up talking about how deep one is willing to dig and how far they're willing to go to prove themselves. He kept saying that's what AEW is all about. So Moxley then directed his attention to the Don Callis family. He kept saying a group of very talented individuals who are associated with a creep. Of course, that creep is Don Callis. Moxley ended up saying over the weekend, they put a hit out on Bryan Danielson, trying to injure his friend and teammate. So Moxley ended up saying to the Don Callis family, if you're going to put a target on Bryan, you might as well put a target on me as well. And Moxley then ended up saying that if you want to get violent, he will be around all night. Moxley ended up saying that he could sneak attack the Don Callis family, but he suspects that won't teach them a lesson. So Moxley ended up saying that he's picking the biggest, baddest, meanest of all them. Mox ended up putting out a challenge to Powerhouse Will Hobbs to have a match next week on Dynamite from Jacksonville at Daly's Place. And he ended up saying Hobbs will accept, only to find out how far Mox is willing to go. So Mox ended up saying that Hobbs will be sent to the ocean, calling to the ref for rescue, but receiving none. He ended up saying that he will find out that Don Callis is feeding him lies, and that there is only one Jon Moxley. So Mox then dropped the mic. He left the ring. He was hanging with the crowd, and basically that was how the segment ended. But overall, very good promo from Jon Moxley here. Him coming out with the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, saying, oh, nobody, would think that he would have the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship on him. And, he was saying, how far they're willing to go to prove themselves, and, it's what AEW is all about. So he accomplished his goal in win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And then we went backstage, and we saw the CEO, Mercedes Moné. Mercedes Moné ended up addressing whoever it was that attacked her last week when she was giving her interview. Mercedes ended up calling out Julia Hart for her remarks last week. And she ended up turning her attention briefly to someone who doesn't want to face Mercedes at Double Nothing. So Mercedes ended up putting the entire women's division on notice, saying that they don't want to mess with her. So pretty much, that was that. And then we had the first match of the night. Mixed tag team match. Adam Copeland and Will Nightingale versus Julia Hart and Brody King. So Adam Copeland ended up making his way to the ring, and as soon as he got into the ring, on the screen, we saw that Will Nightingale was being checked on backstage. Apparently somebody ended up attacking, Will Nightingale backstage. And she was like, oh, I'm fine. Very bad acting that was from Will Nightingale there. So, she was back there with Stokely Hathaway and Chris Statlander. And then it cut back to the ring. Adam Copeland was still in the ring. The lights ended up going out in the arena. The lights came back on. And Julia Hart was on the ramp. Brody King was in the ring. He was right behind Adam Copeland. So Brody King ended up laying Copeland out. Brody then ended up sending Copeland to the outside, started beating him down. So we had Aubrey Edwards. She was checking on Copeland to see if Copeland can still compete. Copeland ended up telling Aubrey that he's still good to go. So we had Copeland end up crawling into the ring. The match ended up getting underway. I forgot to mention you had, before the match even got underway, Brody King ended up laying out Copeland because Copeland was on the chair, and Brody just ended up throwing his, whole body into Copeland, by the barricade. So we had Dynamite go to commercial, and during the picture-in-picture, we had Brody King end up decimating Copeland, and he was wearing Copeland down. So as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Brody started being down Copeland. Copeland started to fight back. He ended up biting Brody's head. Copeland followed that up by launching himself at Brody. So both Brody and Copeland were on the canvas. So Julia Hart ended up trying to, get Brody on from the corner. So both Brody and Copeland end up getting back to their feet. Both guys were exchanging strikes to each other. Brody ended up getting sent to the corner with a clothesline from Copeland. Copeland ended up catching Brody with a big boot. Copeland was trying to wear Brody down, and he ended up letting an impaler on Brody. So Copeland went for the cover. Brody ended up kicking out. So both men got back to their feet once again. Copeland was in the corner. Copeland ended up catching a charging Brody with a boot to the face. He ended up dropping Brody down to the canvas. Copeland ended up heading to the corner to deliver a spear to Brody, but Brody ended up delivering a massive lariat to Copeland. Copeland ended up getting spun inside out. So Brody ended up heading to the corner. He ended up setting up for a massive cannonball senton in the corner, but Copeland ended up evading that. And all we saw was Will Nightingale end up rushing down to the ring. So Kris Statlander was cheering her on. Will Nightingale ended up getting to the ring, and she ended up tagging in. So we had Willow end up taking down Brody King with a crossbody, which got a big pop from the crowd. So, of course, Julia Hart was technically legal to get into the ring, but Julia wanted nothing to do with Will Nightingale. So Copeland ended up taking Brody out with a spear. Brody then got sent to the corner. Will Nightingale ended up hitting a cannonball onto Brody King. So, as Aubrey Edwards was dealing with both Brody and Copeland, Julia Hart ended up coming into the ring. She ended up delivering a shot to Will Nightingale with a chain, with Brody King's chain. Julia then locked in the Heartless on Will Nightingale, and pretty much that was that. Julia Hart and Brody King ended up winning the match. Post-match, Julia Hart ended up refusing to let go of Heartless on Nightingale. And then Mercedes Moné ended up rushing down with a steel chair. Julia Hart ended up escaping out of the ring. She ended up regrouping with Brody on the ramp. Mercedes then stared down Will Nightingale as Copeland was looking on. And pretty much that was that. Mercedes, trying to save, Will Nightingale. But pretty much that was that. Overall, this was a decent match here. Although, it was good to see, Copeland and Brody King go at it, one-on-one. And then we had Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette was interviewing Samoa Joe. And this was done, in the back of a green screen, which terrible green screen it was. They could have just done this just backstage. Just absolutely terrible how the green screen looked behind Renee and Samoa Joe. So Samoa Joe ended up calling Swerve Strickland a nuisance. And Joe ended up running Swerve down for his past failures to win the World Championship, choking and swerving just off target. So Joe ended up promising that this time will be no different. Joe ended up assuring Swerve that he will be the one to choke him out at Dynasty. So that was what Samoa Joe had to say. Very much looking forward to Samoa Joe versus Swerve Strickland for the World Championship this Sunday. Should be a good match. And then we had a video package as Dynamite came back from the commercial, which featured FTR. But the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas, end up calling for it to be cut short due to time. And promising to take out their friends during this upcoming trios match. And you had Tony Khan sitting there with his headset on. So then Okada ended up promising Pac that he will not make it to Dynasty. So we had the Elite end up walking off. And that was that. You just saw Tony Khan sitting there with his headset on. Tony Khan was probably telling the Bucks and Okada, "Oh, give the viewers what they want." So then we had trios match: the Elite, the Young Bucks, and Kazuchika Okada versus Pac, Daniel Garcia, and Penta El Zero Miedo. You had all three of them be accompanied by Alex Abrahantes. So the Elite end up making their way out to the ring. You had Matthew and Nicholas end up coming out first, and then Okada, the Rainmaker. So we had the Elite end up heading down to the ring. Then Danny Garcia end up coming out doing his dance. And then we had Penta El Zero Miedo end up coming out, followed by Pac. And so the match ended up getting underway. Started off with Pac and Okada in the ring. Pac and Okada were circling the canvas. The Bucks end up rushing in. They end up jumping Pac while Okada end up knocking both Danny Garcia and Penta off the apron. So Okada ended up tagging in Nicholas. Pac ended up laying into Nicholas with some strikes. Pac then tagged in Penta. So Pac and Penta end up double teaming on Nicholas. So we had Penta end up going for the cover, and Nicholas end up kicking out. Penta then end up bringing Nicholas to his feet. He delivered a chop to him. Okada ended up sneaking in as the ref was distracted, which allowed Nicholas to turn things around. The Bucks ended up trying to double team on Penta, but they were both dropped by Penta. And then Danny Garcia ended up tagging in. Garcia ended up going after Nicholas, and he was mounting Nicholas with some punches. So Okada ended up catching Danny Garcia from ringside, which allowed the Bucks to regain some momentum in the match. And then Dynamite went to commercial. So then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had Matthew end up running Danny Garcia down. He was on the mic. He was telling Danny Garcia to show me something. So he ended up shoving Danny Garcia away. So Matthew was like, "Oh, Danny Garcia, show us what you show us what you are made of when we brought you here to AEW." So Danny Garcia ended up catching Matthew for a back suplex. So we had Danny Garcia end up tagging in Pac. Matthew ended up dropping the mic. He ended up taking the German suplex from Pac. He ended up hitting Nicholas with a German suplex, and he ended up taking it to a turnbuckle. And Pac ended up delivering a missile dropkick to both the Bucks. And then he delivered a moonsault to the outside to the Bucks. Nice moonsault from Pac. So Okada got into the ring, and he presumably tagged in. He had a standoff with Pac, which, Okada and Pac are going to be going at it this Sunday at Dynasty, which I'm like, why make this match? You're going to see Okada and Pac go at it on Sunday. I guess because, we want to see a little preview of Sunday in their match. So we had the Bucks end up sneak attacking in, taking out Pac. So we had a 3-on-1 attack on Pac from the Elite. Penta ended up getting a tag to intercept. He had taken the Elite down. So the Elite ended up taking Penta down with a triple team, which allowed for Danny Garcia to intervene, followed up by Pac. Pac ended up hitting a springboard cutter on Matthew. Pac then ended up dragging Penta to the corner for the tag. So we had Pac end up getting sent to the corner, and he ended up catching Okada with a thrust kick. Matthew ended up stopping him in the corner. He ended up dropping him off the turnbuckle. Pac then ended up managing to get a tag to Danny Garcia, but the Elite ended up catching Danny Garcia with a kick from the Bucks, which was followed up by a pile driver from Okada. Penta ended up trying to get involved, but he ended up getting a pile driver from Okada. Danny Garcia ended up taking a double super kick from the Bucks, and then Okada delivered a lariat, and so we had the Elite end up getting the win. So post-match, the Bucks end up bringing Danny Garcia up to his knees to deliver an EVP trigger, and this was followed up by the Bucks. The Bucks end up bringing in a ladder, and they were trying to decimate Danny Garcia. Of course, they were trying to decimate Danny Garcia because Danny Garcia is friends with FTR. So Pac ended up running in, and he had a hammer. He had a hammer for the bell, the bell hammer, and he ended up running the Elite off. And also, we got a reminder of the Continental rules for the title match between Pac and Okada at Dynasty. But pretty much that was that. Overall, the match itself, it was okay. And then, as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we saw Taz. Taz ended up welcoming Jericho to the ring, and this is a meeting that, it's been brokered between Jericho and Hook, the FTW champion, which apparently, from what I heard, Hook's contract with AEW is going to be up soon. And if he doesn't resign, there's rumors stating that he could possibly be WWE bound. And if he does go to WWE, he would fit good in NXT. If he goes to NXT, which eventually, he probably will if he signs with WWE. But we don't know. That's the rumor. So then Hook ended up coming down to the ring. Taz ended up saying that he's here to make sure things go nice and easy. Taz then gave the floor to Jericho. Jericho ended up thanking Taz for helping him get Hook out here. So Jericho ended up explaining that he was trying to help Hook by pulling him away from the match last week. He kept reminding Hook that Jericho is the learning tree. And you just saw Hook in the corner with his hat on, eating chips. Just listen to what Jericho had to say. So Jericho ended up putting over the people that have taken his advice in AEW and how they have all succeeded thanks to him. Jericho ended up talking about wanting to bring both himself and Hook to the top of the wizard tree and breathe in that rarefied air. He then ended up asking if Hook is ready to sit under the branches of the learning tree. Hook then raised his mic, and he ended up saying no. So Jericho ended up asking Hook what he means by that. Hook ended up saying that he doesn't need Jericho's help. So Jericho ended up telling Hook not to be stupid. So what Jericho ended up telling Hook not to be stupid, that caused Hook's father, Taz, to intervene. Jericho ended up saying that he's trying to do something Taz hasn't done in 30 years. And that riled up Taz. Jericho started running Hook down with remarks, that referenced Taz. He ended up saying that Hook isn't as good as he thinks he is. Taz ended up trying to tell Jericho that he's getting out of hand. So Jericho shoved Taz away. And of course, they informed us that, Taz had some knee issues. So Taz was shown struggling to get back to his feet. Hook ended up rushing at Jericho. He sent Jericho into the corner. He ended up telling Jericho that he can beat him again anytime, anywhere. So Hook ended up telling Jericho to get out of his ring. So this ended up forcing him to take his leave to a na 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 na, hey hey hey, goodbye chant from the crowd. So pretty much that was that. And it was announced that we're going to be getting this match at Dynasty on Sunday. So Hook versus Jericho, looking forward to it. And then we saw Renee Paquette. Renee was sitting down with Swerve Strickland once again behind the green screen, which looks absolutely terrible. So Renee ended up sitting down with Swerve to address what Samoa Joe had to say earlier in the night. Swerve ended up addressing his shortcomings. He ended up reminding everyone that he's still here, that he always gets back up. He ended up saying Joe can call him whatever he wants. But this Sunday at Dynasty, he will be calling Swerve the new world champion. So Renee then ended up asking Swerve what makes him sure he can beat Joe at Dynasty. But Swerve was like to Renee, this isn't something he needs to answer to, but to Joe. So Swerve started running Joe down, and pretty much that was that. But very much looking forward to this match on Sunday. And then we had Deonna Purrazzo versus Mariah May. And this was very meh, in my opinion. Mariah May ended up making her way out first. She was accompanied alongside by Timeless, Toni Storm, and Luther. And then out came Deonna Purrazzo. The match ended up getting underway. We had Mariah May getting an early advantage on Deonna Purrazzo. Purrazzo ended up managing to take control of the match. She ended up going for the cover on Mariah May. Mariah May ended up kicking out. Mariah started fighting back. She ended up sending Purrazzo to the outside with a hard kick from the turnbuckle. And so Dynamite then went to commercial. So as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had Mariah May end up taking a boot to the face by Purrazzo. Mariah May ended up kicking Purrazzo, but she ended up getting dropped, and Purrazzo ended up going for the coverage, which Mariah May ended up kicking out. Purrazzo ended up taking to the ropes, but she was then intercepted by Mariah May, and Purrazzo ended up locking in an armbar on Mariah May. Mariah May ended up managing to get a leg on the bottom rope to force a break of the armbar. So she ended up getting back to her feet, and she ended up getting dropped with a kick by Purrazzo. Purrazzo ended up going for the cover, and Mariah May ended up kicking out. Mariah May then evaded a powerbomb. She ended up sending Purrazzo to the corner for a hip toss, which was followed by a DDT. Mariah May ended up going for the cover, and Purrazzo ended up kicking out. So Mariah May ended up trying again, but she ended up getting decked by Purrazzo. Purrazzo ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Deonna Purrazzo ended up winning the match. Post-match, Timeless Toni Storm ended up coming into the ring, started beating down on Purrazzo, and then Thunder Rosa came out. Toni Storm and Mariah May left the ring. Thunder Rosa and Purrazzo ended up having words. whether Purrazzo needed any help. But Purrazzo ended up getting pulled out of the ring by Mariah May. We had Toni Storm end up going for Storm Zero on Thunder Rosa. But Thunder Rosa powered out. She ended up laying out Toni Storm with a punch. And then Thunder Rosa ended up pulling out some lipstick. And she smudged the lipstick all over Toni Storm's face. And pretty much that was basically that. So, we're getting, Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm for the title this Sunday at Dynasty. But overall, very meh match by Deonna Purrazzo and Mariah May. And then we had Renee Paquette. She was backstage with the Bang Bang Gang. Of course, not in front of a green screen. This was done backstage because you saw the monitors. So we had the Bang Bang Gang end up making new friends this past week ahead of a massive match for Dynasty. A winner-takes-all match between the Bullet Club Gold and the Acclaimed for the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team titles and the Ring of Honor World Trios Championship. So they were like, if you're not down with that, they've got 2 words for you. Guns up. So pretty much, that was basically that. But it's going to be, Bullet Club Gold, Jay White, Austin Gunn, and Colton Gunn versus the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. Winner-takes-all match, for the Trios Championship and the Ring of Honor 6-man Tag Team Championship. So should be a decent match Sunday. And as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we saw backstage the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn end up addressing the challenge laid out by Bullet Club Gold. So they end up accepting for Dynasty. Max Caster then laid out a challenge for a tag team match this Saturday on Collision. There you go. And then we had Orange Cassidy versus Shane Taylor. So Orange Cassidy ended up coming out to the ring first. He was all alone because last week Trent Beretta ended up turning heel and he betrayed Orange Cassidy. So Shane Taylor then ended up coming to the ring. He was accompanied by Lee Moriarty and Anthony Ogogo of Shane Taylor Productions. So the match ended up getting underway. The match itself was very meh, in my opinion. So we had Shane Taylor Productions end up rising up on the apron. Lee Moriarty and Anthony Ogogo. But they were told to stand down by Shane Taylor. So Cassidy ended up having his hands in his pockets, of course. He ended up going on the offensive on Shane Taylor. He was then intercepted by Taylor. Taylor ended up setting up Cassidy on the top rope for a jawbreaker, and that sent Orange Cassidy to the outside. So we had Ogogo and Moriarty end up going on the attack on Cassidy. They ended up sending Cassidy back into the ring. Taylor ended up taking Cassidy to the corner for a chop, and that ended up forcing Cassidy right back to the outside. And then Dynamite went to commercial. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Shane Taylor was in control of the match. He ended up going for a chop to Cassidy, but Cassidy ended up evading it. Cassidy started fighting back with some right hands from the corner. He ended up slamming Taylor's head against the turnbuckle, and this allowed Taylor to catch Cassidy with his hands. So, led to Shane Taylor Productions keeping him at bay. So Cassidy ended up fighting out of the grip from Taylor. Taylor ended up blocking the Stun Dog Millionaire from Cassidy. Cassidy ended up reversing a suplex to finish that off. Cassidy ended up fighting off a Go-Go. He ended up going for an orange punch on Taylor, but Taylor ended up laying Cassidy out. He ended up going for the cover, and Orange Cassidy ended up kicking out. Taylor then ended up finding out of a beach break by Cassidy, only to take an orange punch from Cassidy. So we had Taylor end up delivering a right hand of his own to Cassidy. Cassidy ended up delivering a second orange punch, which kept Taylor down. So Cassidy ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Orange Cassidy ended up winning the match. Post-match, Ogogo and Moriarty ended up rushing into the ring. And they were setting up Orange Cassidy for a left hand from Ogogo. So then Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels end up coming out. Sydal and Daniels end up trying to save Orange Cassidy, but they were laid out with some chair shots from Trent Beretta, and that allowed Shane Taylor to lay Orange Cassidy out with another punch into a Boris City stretch from Lee Moriarty. Trent then watched on. He ended up retreating up the ramp as Shane Taylor Productions ended up laying their flag over Orange Cassidy. So pretty much that was basically that. Overall, very meh match it was. Looks like we're going to be getting, Trent Beretta versus Orange Cassidy, at some point. And then we had a vignette of Kyle O'Reilly's return to AEW that put him at odds with his old friends in the Undisputed Kingdom. So we're going to see Kyle O'Reilly versus Roderick Strong for the AEW International Championship at Dynasty on Sunday. So very much, looking forward to that. Main event, Will Ospreay versus Claudio Castagnoli. And this was a very good match. This was a good main event here. Will Ospreay ended up making his way out first, got a big pop from the crowd. We all love Will Ospreay, great in the ring. So then Claudio Castagnoli ended up coming out as Dynamite came back from the commercial. So the match ended up getting underway. Claudio ended up rushing at Ospreay. He ended up taking Ospreay down, ended up going for the cover, and Ospreay ended up kicking out. Claudio was looking to go for the Ricola bomb, but Ospreay ended up fighting out of it. So Claudio ended up sending Ospreay into the corner. Ospreay ended up taking Claudio down and to the outside. So Claudio ended up continuing his attack on Ospreay. He ended up sending Ospreay to the barricade. Ospreay leapt over the barricade, and then he ended up jumping onto the barricade for a leap attack on Castagnoli. That was a good spot there. So Claudio ended up blocking a springboard attack from Ospreay. He ended up bringing Ospreay back into the ring for a running double stomp and a series of boots to Ospreay's chest. Claudio then delivered a backbreaker to Ospreay, and Ospreay ended up fighting out of that. Claudio ended up fighting back. So we had strikes exchanged by both men here. Ospreay ended up getting sent to his knees for Claudio to hit an elbow to the back. Ospreay ended up fighting back with a deja vu on Claudio. Claudio ended up escaping to the outside. Ospreay ended up going for a dive. He got caught by Claudio in midair. Claudio ended up slamming Ospreay onto the apron, and then Dynamite went to commercial. Then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Ospreay was in control of the match. He managed to fight back against Claudio. He ended up taking Claudio off his game. He ended up going for the cover, and Claudio ended up kicking out. Claudio fought back with a European uppercut, but Ospreay ended up hitting a backslide. He ended up going for the cover, and Claudio ended up kicking out. So Claudio ended up quickly escaping a sharpshooter locked in on Ospreay, and he ended up locking in a sharpshooter of his own on Ospreay, and he ended up transitioning that to a crossface on Ospreay. Ospreay tried to escape, but Claudio ended up rolling through. Ospreay ended up getting Claudio on his shoulder for a near fall. Claudio then ended up getting caught with a Tiger Driver from Ospreay, and Ospreay ended up going for the cover, and Claudio ended up kicking out. You had later on Ospreay ended up going for the Os Cutter, but ended up getting slammed hard, and we had Claudio end up going for the cover, and Ospreay ended up kicking out. So Ospreay ended up responding with a Spanish Fly onto Claudio, which was great. So Ospreay ended up going for the cover, and Claudio ended up kicking out. We had Ospreay end up getting countered into a big uppercut from Claudio. Claudio ended up going for the cover, and Ospreay ended up kicking out. Claudio was then calling for the giant swing, but Ospreay powered out of that, and Ospreay ended up hitting a corkscrew moonsault to Claudio. He ended up going for the cover. Claudio kicked out. So we had Ospreay end up going for the cover on Claudio, and there you go. Will Ospreay ended up winning the match. Post-match, Ospreay left the ring as the Don Callis family ended up going after Claudio. Moxley ended up running down to make the save. Moxley ended up running off Fletcher and Takeshita, and then he started trading blows with Hobbs. Ospreay ended up noticeably leaving the scene. He had headed to the back as the rest of the Don Callis family stared down both Jon Moxley and Claudio from the ramp. And pretty much that was basically that. But also Don Callis was on commentary for the match here. But overall, very good main event this was. Ospreay and Claudio were both great here. Just good wrestling from the both of them. So then we had Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland ended up coming out. He was accompanied by Prince Nana, of course. Prince Nana doing his dance. So Swerve ended up getting on the mic. He reminded everyone that he knocked Samoa Joe out, making him quaver and stare as he held that AEW World Championship up high. So Swerve ended up saying that Joe needs to come out here to meet him face to face. So Samoa Joe's music ended up hitting. Security was trying to keep Samoa Joe from getting physical with Swerve. But Joe ended up approaching ringside. Swerve then ended up going up to the top turnbuckle. He ended up laying out the security with a Swerve stomp, which was great. He ended up taking out all the security. Swerve then stared Joe down. Swerve ended up saying to Joe that he'll take the World Championship from him. So we had Swerve and Joe going at it. Joe ended up throwing Swerve into the ring steps. So Joe got into the ring. Prince Nana was in there. So Joe was taunting Nana. Nana ended up backing away into the corner. So Swerve ended up coming into the ring, taking out Joe. Swerve ended up going up top, but he was then intercepted by Joe. Joe ended up dropping Swerve with the Muscle Buster. So then Joe stood tall over Swerve. He raised the World Championship up high, and then he left the ring, and that was how Dynamite went off the air. I thought this was, decent here, for hype going into the match at Dynasty on Sunday. Just looking forward to Swerve and Joe going at it, for the title. But overall, Dynamite tonight just very mid-show was. It was better than last week's show, but still was very mid, in my opinion. But anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys on Friday for SmackDown. So see you all then.